Welcome to this week's weekly roundup with me, Ben the Amputee Angler. Just an informal chat, could be in the car, could be at the beach, could be on the boat. Today we're going to talk about something I spoke about on Facebook last week, got a lot of traction, a lot of comments, and that is the potential, keyword potential, new catch limits and restrictions for bass and pollock. If you haven't seen it, I did a post on Facebook just the other week, and I will copy the text of that into this description. So have a read or just go and join me on Facebook if you're not already on there. But before that, those of you who followed me, I've sold the boat. There's videos on it. I'm not going to go too crazy with it. We are, though, making waves. For those who aren't aware, if you're not on Facebook, you wouldn't have seen it or watched the videos. We dropped the boat off and I got straight off and actually went and looked at another boat. And I know you never should buy the first thing you look at, should look around, but I know what boat I want to get next. And I'm not going to go into too many details about it, but I do know. But as with the current climate, if you're not mega rich, you need to worry about your finances and have a look around, move some stuff around. And that's what we're waiting on now. So I know what boat I'm getting. Just got to move some money around to make it happen. But you will be the first to know as soon as that happens. But let's talk about this week's main topic. Bass and pollock restrictions and changes. So the current restrictions on bass, 2 fish per day with a closed season of February and March. Now, that's worked perfectly. We've known that is the case for a long, long time. However, there is noticeable changes in the stocks, I think. If you disagree with that, by all means, tell me in the comments. Now, for the last few years, commercial online anglers have been given an increase in their quota. We've certainly seen a lot more bass on the boats, and general consensus from people is there's a lot more bass on the ground. Now, the sizes aren't there. That's the key thing, really. There's not loads of big ones around because they are a slow-going fish, bass. But there is more of them. Now, if you're not familiar with me, I used to be a commercial fisherman, so I used to do the drift netting, the set netting and all that sort of stuff. I did that for bass. I did the drift netting for bass, drifting miles of net down the tide, and I saw the devastation, or the effectiveness would be a better word for it, that did. I also saw what else it caught apart from bass. Now, I'm not going to go too crazy and give ammunition to people, but the wildlife was affected. Big taupe, we had a lot of big taupe in our nets as well, pregnant females in the winter. And it's no coincidence that since that's been banned, a lot more taupe on the ground, bass stocks are coming back. In addition to banning the drift netting, the pair trawling in certain areas was banned as well. And again, I've done that, and that is devastating. But this year they are talking about, so if you're not aware, every year, the UK and other European countries get together, they meet in Brussels, and they work out what they want to set for quotas for commercial fishermen and anglers for the coming year ahead. Now, one of the main points from the post the other day was people a bit confused as to why the EU has a say in our fishing, given that we're out of the EU now for Brexit and whatever else. And this is not a political post, whatever your views are, that's not what we're talking about. But the EU and UK decides the quotas for the year. Now, I'm not going to be one of those, my contacts tell me, but I know people in the MMO and I know people in the Angling Trust, both of who have a big say this year in what those quotas and limits are going to be. And there is big talk about changes to the bass and the pollock, and I'll talk about them individually. So bass, currently 2 fish per day per angler, and then obviously February, March closed. They're talking about increasing the limit that we can take home as bass anglers. So instead of 2, it might be 3 or it might be 4. Now, I don't know the numbers, and these are discussions. Nothing's concrete. This may all go to pot, and it stays exactly as it is. That's what discussions and negotiations are. They are discussions and negotiations. So there is talk about increasing the amount of bass that we can take. Now, my opinion is that's not a bad thing for bass anglers. Personally, I don't keep fish, or that's a lie. I keep the odd 1 or 2 for my family or friends or neighbours, but I'm not a fish eater. I don't eat any of it. So I have more interest in returning it and catching it again than I do sticking it on a dinner plate. That said, I do take the odd bit through the year. For me, 2 fish is plenty. February, March, no biggie, I get that. Let the bass stocks recover spawning time. Prime spawning months are January to April for bass, same for pollock, but we'll come on for those in a minute. So for me, the current limit is fine. That said, the commercial rod and line anglers have had increases, and I think it's been a couple of 100 kilos. Don't quote me. I think it's been a couple of 100 kilos increases each month, and the anglers are rightly saying, well, where's ours? And I think that might be coming. Now, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. 3 fish per angler, 4 fish, not a problem. Now, the arguments are that I've heard is if you're a regular angler like me, 2 fish a day is plenty, because if you go 4 or 5 times a week and you get your 2, you've suddenly got 10 bass on your hands. Unless you're eating fish every day, that's going to last you. So then the question comes, well, what are you doing with it? You stick it in the freezer, losing its quality, or you're giving it away, or potentially, like some people do, they're moving it on via the black market. So there's that argument. The other argument is for those who only go once or twice, maybe they're shore fishermen, lake fishermen, like a bit of fish to eat or whatever. Their argument is, well, I only go twice a year and I'll pay a charter boat 80, 100 quid to go for that session. If I'm only allowed 2 per session and I go twice a year, I'm only getting 4 bass for the entire year. Why can't I keep 8 or 10 bass for those 2 sessions? Now, you're never going to please everybody with that. You're just not going to please everybody. So whatever they do, someone won't like it in terms of the bass fishing. Someone's not going to like it. So someone will moan, someone will be happy, and others just like, they won't care. But the current measures are working, and I don't think increasing how many we can take is a problem. The other alarming news I've heard, and my commercial friends will be happy about it, is they're talking about maybe, this is the EU, this is, not the UK. The UK doesn't want it, but the EU is talking about allowing drift netting again. Now, I don't think that's a good idea. I think that will undo a lot of hard work. Like I said, I have done it, and I know friends who are eager to get it back, but they're eager to get it back because it's so effective, and obviously that's then going to affect the stocks again. So that's my take on the bass side of it. What falls out of that, I don't know, but that's how I feel about the bass. Pollock, now this is a big one, and this is where I will potentially have an argument or something to say about it. So pollock is crashing. The pollock stocks are dire. They are down massively. I went to the Pollock conference in February down at Plymouth University, where they've been doing a 2-year study on pollock, black bream, and a few other bits. And some of the information was quite alarming. Now, there's talk of using descender devices and other bits and bobs to try and reduce mortality rates. The use of descender devices is a whole another video and an argument that, to be honest with you, I don't really want to get into. I've got my beliefs on them. Others hold theirs. And it's not something I want to discuss too much because I don't particularly like them. It's probably all I'll say on that. But they are talking about bringing in really punitive, big word, measures for pollock. Now, stocks are suffering. So for the last 2 years, they've banned rec netting, which is deadly for pollock. Down West Country, they do it a lot down there. Don't do it so much here where I am in Sussex, the odd boat. But basically, rec netting, if you're not familiar with it, you go up to a wreck, they shoot an anchor, shoot the net over, the net goes over, slowly drapes down over the net, and it's a massive deep net, floaty, so it stands up really, really high, and it's rigged so it's made to have lots of slack in it. So pollock and other bits and bobs get in there, get tangled up, and then they leave it 24 hours and they hold it up again after they've shot the other end away. Now, what they were doing down west as well, some boats were shooting one end away, and they figured out that they could let one end just drift around in the tide, and instead of setting it for 24 hours, letting it float over the top of the wreck, and they were getting what they would do in 24 hours, they were getting in an hour. And it's just deadly. They were taking 15, 16 tonnes, if not more, a month. Now, the pollock are slow growing. They're not like a bass. They're fast growing, but they're resident fish. So pollock will populate a wreck, and once they're gone, you have to wait for other pollock to slowly come and populate it, because they all have their favourite bits of ground and wrecks. So same as angling. Angling's got a play on this as well. If you hammer a wreck too much and take the resident fish off, you could devoid it of life for a while. Now, the rec net is just deadly. It's horrible. I don't like it. It's really popular, but I don't like it. And they banned it for 2 years. So naturally, the pollock fishermen now, who were relying on that, are now going, well, what we're going to fish on? We've now suddenly lost our livelihoods. And the anglers now are still catching our pollock on the wrecks. So there's a bit of conflict between commercials and recreational anglers. What they are talking about doing, and it's just rumour, again, it's whispers, it's negotiations, it's talking, is they're talking about putting a bag limit on pollock for anglers, a bit like bass, so 1 fish, 2 fish, 5 fish, whatever they're going to decide. And they're talking about doing a closed season. So maybe like bass, February, March. If it was sensible, you'd probably align it together so the species are, everyone can sync it up. Now, for me, as a pleasure angler up here in Sussex, if you're not familiar with my area, come wintertime, we don't have much to fish on. We've got dabs, maybe thornback rays, not much else to fish on. Winter wrecking is my favourite fishing. It's the chance to go and get a big fish, because they are spawned up, which is the caveat to that. They are spawned up. However, the difference between pollock and bass is bass go back quite well from depth. You could bring a bass up at whatever sort of speed you want to, being sensible, and generally they go back perfectly fine. They don't blister. You don't get too many with the swim bladders through the mouths. So actually you could target bass during a closed season and be confident that from depth they're going to go back. Now, pollock is different. You've only got to look at a pollock from depth and it has died. It's blown, it's blistered, swim bladder through its mouth, and no matter whether you're sticking a descender device on it or anything else, at that point that pollock is gone. All you are doing is giving yourself a warm, comfy feeling that you're sending that pollock that would have floundered on the surface down to the depths, and you're going to release it and you're going to go, oh, that's all right, look, it's swimming back on the sounder. All it's doing is floundering, but down deep where you can't see it. Pollock don't take well to being retrieved up from depth. Now, you can minimalise that by going really slowly, and that does work. That is really effective, and is probably the better way to educate anglers on pollock, is to teach them to bring it up incredibly slowly. But that doesn't always happen. I'm guilty of it sometimes, and even if you do bring it up slowly, they can then still blow, as evident in some of my videos and other people's. Get beyond 150-foot depth, a lot of pollock will blow. So, they're talking about banning pollock through certain months and then a bag limit. Now, again, the bag limit doesn't bother me, but the charter boats up here in Sussex especially are going to suffer with that, because their main bookings through winter, with the exception of squid now, which are coming till maybe sort of first week in December, but in December, January, February, March, all of their bookings, bar a few, are offshore wrecking for bass and pollock. If they word it where there is a no target of pollock during those months, wrecking is off the cards. It's just off. You wouldn't be able to go out there with a conscience, target these fish, and throw them back dead. I couldn't put back a 10-pound pollock, 15-pound pollock dead, and not be able to bring it home for dinner had it blown. I wouldn't consciously be able to do that. Now, as you know, if you're watching this, I make YouTube videos. So my winter fishing is primarily offshore wrecking for bass and pollock. Now, we can put the bass back and they live. That's not a problem. I've got no problem fishing for bass during that period. But the pollock, they're going to die. So what do I do from an angler's point of view now? And as a person that will have moorings to pay and all that lot and an upkeep of a boat, because that effectively wipes out my 3 months of fishing. Now, I don't earn a living from it, so someone's going to be going, well, you're not earning a living from it, and you'd be 100% correct. But I pay for a boat and I want to fish it. So that will affect me massively. The charter boats here will lose business. Not many people are going to pay 80 quid a person to come and fish dabs in the depths of winter in the freezing cold, after knowing that they've been fishing pollock for the last however many years. Pollock are a really hard fighting fish, favourites of many. So I don't know how that's going to go down. Personally, I'd like to see it done on a region by region basis. Up here, I say we suffer with pollock, so there needs to be some sort of fishery, I think. But then if we get it up here in Sussex, so the charter boats can continue operating, but down West Country doesn't get that, then there's going to be an unfair balance, isn't there? So I don't know how to work it. I don't know. All of this is hearsay. None of it is gospel, but there's been talk about changes coming to Pollock for a long time now, and this will be the year it comes in, I think. So if it's a no target, we can't target them. If it's a no take, that then again is like I was just alluding to. No take means you simply can't keep them, but you could still fish them. But the moral dilemma of doing that, if you go out back and have a good day, and we do 40, 50 fish some days, bass and pollock, maybe even more, just for myself, one other, not a bad day's fishing. I don't want to be putting back 20, 30 pollock that are all going to float down the tide, because no one's winning. Stocks aren't winning. I'm having my day's fun, but I'm not helping the stocks. I'm not doing my part. And I think it would be unfair to put restrictions on anybody and then have everybody going out and still doing it. But that said, what do I do? And what do others do? I'm talking about me from a selfish point of view, but what do other people down here in Sussex do, or Torquay, or wherever? If pollock is the bread and butter, what else is there to do really for those boats? So, bit of a dilemma, that one. I'm going to be interested to see what comes out of it, and I will keep people updated. If I hear more or see more, obviously I will share it. But yeah, what's your thoughts on it? I mean, I've highlighted a bit there. Tell me your stuff. Drop me in the comments of YouTube here, or come over to Facebook and have the debate there. Just scroll back through and have a look, and I will pin the post to my top of my Facebook for a little bit, so it'll be easy to find for you. But tell me your thoughts. Tell me where you'd be at. Would you support a bass ban or a increased limit? Sorry. Would you support a pollock ban and a limit? Or is that something that worries you, bothers you? Or do you think bigger picture? Because pollock are fast growing, so they will bounce back pretty quick. But short-term loss for long-term gain? Or is it going to put people out of business? I don't know. Let's see. That's the weekly roundup for this week. Thanks for watching. Plenty of fishing videos to go and watch if you want to see some fishing. I'm Ben the Amputee Angler. Thanks for watching.